Snow fell like ashes on the mining world of Veyra, painting the slave market in pale light. The stalls stank of hunger, cheap stimulants, and old despair. Nira huddled with the other refugees in a ragged line, her ribs sharp beneath her threadbare tunic, her breath visible in the freezing air. She hadn't eaten in days, or had her little brother Shil, who clung to her hand, too tired even to cry. Rumor said the next convoy would bring rations, but everyone knew those went first to the overseers, then to the lucky, then to the strongest. The rest of them malians and outcasts, unwanted, starved, or sold. The slave master's voice boomed over the crowd, making her flinch. Work or barter, it's all the same. If you're not strong enough to earn your keep, you'll pay. Another way, Nira's last hope flickered. She'd tried to trade, begged for scraps, offered what little she owned a woven charm. A song from her home world, but nothing moved the hearts of those around her. Only the desperate and the cruel thrived here. As the last of the line shuffled forward, the overseer fixed his yellow gaze on her. You girl, you and the rent, you eat or you're out. She stood trembling. I'll work anything. Just a little food for him. Please, I'll do whatever you ask. Her voice cracked as she glanced at Shil, who looked up with hollow eyes. The overseer sneered. You got nothing to offer. Go on, beg the humans. They're always looking for a bargain. Desperate, Nira led Shil across the crowded yard to the supply tent at the edge of the market. There, a tall human man stood beside crates of ration packs. His face was hard from long winters, but his eyes, startling blue, tired but kind, met hers and softened. Nira forced herself to kneel, voice shaking. Please, sir. I have nothing but myself. Clean, I'll haul, I'll be anything. You want to just, please, food for my brother? I'll serve you if you feed him. For a long moment the human said nothing. I knelt, meeting Shil's gaze first, then Nira's. How long since you two ate? She shook her head, unable to answer. The man stood and reached into a crate. Pulling out 2 ration bars and a water pouch, he pressed them into Nira's hands, ignoring the watching crowd. Eat, both of you. No strings. Nira stared at the food, too stunned to move. But, I said-eyed. The human shook his head. No deals. Not here. I don't take slaves, I help people. He knelt again, voice gentle, but strong. My name's Cal. I lost my family in this war too. Maybe I can't fix the galaxy, but I can feed a child? Eat, then tell me your story. Tears blurred Nira's vision as she handed the bar to Shil, who tore into it hungrily. For the first time in months, hope small, frail, but alive flickered in her chest. As she ate, she watched Cal. He stood guard over them. Eyes wary but kind, ready to fight anyone who threatened the siblings. For the first time, Nira wondered if kindness could survive a place like Veyra, if a human could see her as more than just a body to be used. Tonight, she had food. Tomorrow, perhaps, something even more precious, a chance at family. Asterisk night fell hard and fast on Veyra. The wind howled between the mining shacks, carrying the cries of the desperate and the violent. Most people on this world trusted no one, least of all humans. But Cal stood watch by the fire, boots planted in the snow. As Nira and Shil ate slowly for the first time in days, Shil finished his ration and curled up by the flames, already asleep. Nira watched Cal, wary and uncertain, the food heavy in her stomach. She remembered what happened to those who trusted too quickly in places like this. Cal tossed another chunk of synthwood onto the fire. You're not from here, he said. Quietly, Nira hesitated. We came on a refugee ship after our colony fell. My parents. She swallowed, the words catching in her throat. We got separated. Shil's all I have. Cal nodded, his gaze distant. War takes everything if you let it. I lost my boy when the raiders hit Earth's outer stations. That's why I came out here looking for something to fight for. Nira pulled the thin blanket tighter. People say humans are cruel. That you buy people, work them to death. Cal shrugged. Some are. But I didn't come all this way to watch another child starve. I have a room in the North Wing. It's small, but it's safe. You can stay tonight, both of you. No one will touch you while I'm here. Fear and hope battled inside Nira. She wanted to believe him, but years of hunger and danger made her wary. Why are you doing this? She whispered. What do you want from us? Cal shook his head, staring into the fire. Nothing. Sometimes all a person needs is someone to remind them they're not alone. And I guess I needed that too. 4. The first time, Nira felt something inside her begin to thaw. She watched as Cal offered her a place by the fire, careful not to get too close, never touching without permission. His kindness was awkward, but real. But Veyra was a place where nothing good went unnoticed. In the darkness beyond the firelight, eyes watched, jealous, hungry, suspicious. Nira felt the weight of their stares and pulled Shil closer. Cal noticed, jaw tightening. If anyone tries to take you, he said softly, they'll answer. To me, get some sleep. I'll keep watch. Nira lay down, holding Shil tight. For the first time in months, her dreams were not of hunger or loss, but of warmth, the smell of food, and the promise, fragile but stubborn, that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow would be better. Yet as the wind howled and the fires burned low, the dangers of Veyra pressed closer, and Nira knew survival was never simple, not here. Not for people like her. The night's uneasy peace didn't last. Before dawn, boots crunched in the snow beyond Cal's shack. Nira jolted awake, her heart hammering. She saw Cal by the window, rifle slung over one shoulder, eyes scanning the shadows. Stay with your brother, he whispered. A heavy fist pounded the door. Open up, human, snarled a gruff voice, one of the mining overseers, backed by 2 armed men and a wiry woman in merchant's rags. Behind them, others watched. Drawn by the scent of conflict, Cal opened the door a crack, keeping his body between the intruders and Nira. It's early for trouble, he said coolly. The overseer shoved the door wider. Word is you're giving away food and shelter to off-world trash. That's not how things work here. Cal didn't flinch. They're children. They're hungry. You have a problem with that? The merchant woman leaned in, her eyes flickering over Nira and Shil. They owe debts. Her kind always does. You feed them, you own them. That's the law here. Nira hugged Shil close, panic rising. Cal's jaw tightened, voice deadly calm. That's your law, not mine. If you want to claim them, you'll have to go through me. A tense silence hung in the cold air. The overseer grinned, flashing broken teeth. We might just do that. Human, you think you can save every stray on Veyra? Cal stepped forward, eyes hard as steel. No, but I can start with these 2. Behind him, Nira felt a rush of gratitude and terror. No one had ever defended her like this, not since her family was taken. She clutched Shil, feeling the old hopelessness threaten to return. Then something changed. Others in the crowd, miners, a few rough-looking women, even a scarred old alien with silver eyes, stepped closer to Cal. Silent but unmistakably supportive. Perhaps they remembered his fairness at the food lines, or a kindness shown in some forgotten moment. The overseer hesitated, reading the shifting mood. This isn't over, he spat. Keep them, but if they cause trouble, it's on your head. He stalked away, his men trailing. The crowd melted into the morning gloom, but some nodded at Cal as they passed. Cal shut the door, locking it tight. He turned to Nira, his breath fogging in the cold. You're safe for now, but things will get harder. If you want to leave, I'll help you. Or you can stay. Not as property. As family, if you want it. Nira's throat ached with emotion. She glanced at Shil, who was peeking shyly from behind her. In Cal's tired, gentle face, she saw the faint, stubborn hope that maybe kindness wasn't weakness after all. Can we really stay? She whispered. Cal smiled, just a little. For as long as you want. No chains. Just a place to belong.
Nira
Closed her eyes, tears burning, as the first real warmth she'd felt in years crept into her chest. Outside, the world was still cruel and cold. But inside, something new had begun, a fragile family, forged in defiance of everything Veyra demanded. The days that followed were tense but strangely bright. Cal taught Nira and Shil to tend the small greenhouse behind the shack, showing them how to coax fragile shoots from the nutrient-rich mud. Shil laughed for the first time in months, chasing a faded old ball that Cal had patched and filled. For a few golden hours each day, it almost felt like home. But Veyra never let anyone forget where they were. Each trip to the market brought stares and whispered threats. When Nira accompanied Cal into town, she kept her head down, clinging to his sleeve, while Shil stayed behind in the safety of the greenhouse. One afternoon, as snow fell heavy and gray, Cal sent Nira to fetch supplies from a neighboring stall. She hurried through the alleys, heart racing, basket clutched tight. As she passed the overseer's men, one spat at her feet. "You think the human can protect you forever, alien?" Nira said nothing, remembering Cal's advice. Don't rise to taunts. Get what you need. Get home safe. At the stall, an old miner pressed a withered fruit into her hand. "What a boy," he whispered, eyes darting. "You tell Cal some of us. Remember, not all humans forget who they are." Nira blinked back tears, stammering a thank you before hurrying away. But as she turned for home, a group of rough miners blocked her path. "Where are you going, stray?" One jeered, snatching at her basket. Another grabbed her arm. "You eat human food. You pay the human's price. Maybe it's your turn to work." The pits. Fear flashed hot and bright, and for an instant she froze. But then she remembered Cal's words and her own promise to Shil. Never let anyone take you. With sudden fury, Nira twisted free, swinging her basket at the closest miner's face. The old fruit burst, spraying pulp into his eyes. She darted past them, feet flying over the icy ground, ignoring the shouts behind her. When she burst through Cal's door, breathless and shaking, he was already on his feet. "What happened?" She stammered out the story, voice trembling with anger and fear. Cal's jaw clenched, and he pulled her into a fierce, one-armed hug. "You did good. You got home. That's what matters." Shil rushed to her side, hugging her tightly. For the first time, Nira realized she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was fighting for something worth keeping. That night, Cal posted watch outside, rifled across his knees, eyes never leaving the darkness. Inside, Nira and Shil slept close, hearts beating in sync, bound by a new sense of belonging. The world outside was still cruel, but within the walls of that small shack, hope was no longer a stranger. Nira knew it wouldn't last forever. Nothing good on Veyra ever did, but for tonight, she had a place to call home. The next morning dawned with a strange hush, as if Veyra itself was holding its breath. Cal was already outside, shoveling snow from the greenhouse roof, when Nira heard the distant grind of engines. She looked out and saw a cloud of dust rising on the horizon, heavy vehicles, more than she'd ever seen at once. Within minutes, the mining overseer and his enforcers swept into the settlement, backed by armored haulers and men with guns slung low. At their center was a new figure, an off-worlder in crisp black uniform, eyes cold and unreadable. The settlers watched in anxious silence as the group fanned out, checking lists and demanding to see property records. Cal hustled Nira and Shil inside. "Pack a bag, only what you need. Move fast." His voice was sharp, but his hands shook as he checked his rifle's charge. "They're not just looking for workers now. They're clearing out anyone who doesn't fit." Nira helped Shil stuff a few clothes and the battered ball into a sack. Her mind spun, would kindness really be enough against men with guns and laws? A heavy knock rattled the door. Cal motioned them into the small storage space behind the greenhouse, then answered. The overseer's voice was oily. "Open up, Cal." "Official business." Cal stood firm as the enforcers filed in, their weapons obvious. The off-worlder in black looked around, unimpressed. "Records show you've taken in to refugees one miner. We have orders to seize all non-registered persons. Failure to comply will be prosecuted." Cal's jaw worked. "They're not slaves. They're family. You want to take them? You'll have to take me too." The overseer's face twisted in a sneer. "That can be arranged." Standoff filled the room, tension thick as smoke. Nira clutched Shil's hand, heart pounding, hearing every word. Then a voice called from the crowd. Outside, one of the miners who'd helped Nira in the market. Cal's right. These are good people. You want to arrest him? You arrest all of us. One by one, settlers stepped forward, forming a loose wall between the shack and the enforcers. Old miners, traders, even some aliens with scarred faces. And hard-eyed people who'd known suffering and refused to let it happen again. The off-worlder paused, eyes narrowing as he measured the crowd. For a long moment, no one moved. Cal met the officer's gaze, steady and unafraid. You can make this a war, or you can walk away. At last, the off-worlder turned away with a curt gesture. We'll be back. Next time there will be no warnings. Crowd let out a shaky breath as the convoy pulled away. Cal slumped, relief and exhaustion etched deep into his features. Nira and Shil rushed to him, clinging to his sides. He hugged them both fiercely. I told you family means you never run alone. For the first time, Nira believed it. Whatever happened next, they'd face it together. The harsh world of Veyra had tried to break them. God. But kindness had built something stronger than chains of family no one could own. The days that followed felt different. For the first time since Nira had arrived on Veyra, she sensed a flicker of courage in the settlement. Sensed that maybe, just maybe, they didn't have to live in fear anymore. The crowd's defiance had sent a message not just to the overseers and the off-worlder, but to the people themselves. Neighbors who had once turned away now greeted each other with quiet nods and cautious smiles. Miners shared extra rations with those who had none. A few old rivalries faded as everyone realized their survival depended on standing together. For Nira, it was a revelation. Each morning she woke to the sound of Shil's laughter in the greenhouse and Cal's steady footsteps outside, tending the crops. She no longer felt the weight of being an outsider. She felt herself becoming part of something real. Cal grew closer to. He taught Shil to fix broken tools and showed Nira how to run the old water recycler. Never asked for thanks, never demanded repayment. The small gestures, mending a torn coat, saving the last piece of bread, spoke louder than words. One evening, as they sat around the fire, a knock sounded at the door. Nira tensed, but Cal's calm hand on her shoulder steadied her. It was the old miner from the market, holding a battered radio. Signal's clear tonight, he said, smiling shyly. Want to hear the stars? He tuned the radio until music drifted out, an ancient earth song, low and haunting, filling the shack with warmth. For a few precious minutes, Veyra faded, away, replaced by the feeling that anything was possible. That night, after Shil had fallen asleep, Nira found Cal on the porch, staring up at the sky. Do you ever wish you'd left? She asked softly. Cal shook his head, a gentle smile on his lips. For a long time I thought I was just surviving. But you and Shilu made me remember what living is. It's family, here and now. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Nira felt tears prick her eyes, not of sorrow, but of gratitude so deep it left her breathless. She reached for Cal's hand and he held it tightly, the two of them standing side by side in the chill night, stronger together than they'd ever been alone. As the stars shone down and the music played, Nira realized the truth. She had offered herself for food, but what she'd found was something worth more than all the rations in the universe. She had found home. Winter's grip finally loosened. The snow receded, revealing muddy paths and the promise of green shoots in the greenhouse. As Veyra thawed, so did the hearts of its people. Something had shifted in the settlement. Neighbors came together to mend roofs, share food, and tell stories around crackling fires. It was as if, after years of cold silence, life itself had chosen to return. Neil watched Shil run barefoot through patches of new grass, his laughter echoing in the open air. She felt a deep contentment as she joined Cal by the garden, helping him replant seedlings that had survived the long freeze. The bruises of her past had faded, replaced by a quiet, growing strength. Cal looked up from the dirt, a streak of soil across his forehead. You know, I used to think I'd die alone out here, he said, half joking. Didn't realize I was just waiting for the right family. Nira smiled, sunlight warming her face. I never believed we could be safe. Not really. Not after everything we lost. But now, I can't imagine leaving. The old miner, the one who'd given Shil fruit in the market, passed by and tipped his hat. The town's throwing a gathering tonight, he said. Everyone's coming. Divanda. Hard cases from the North Ridge. About time, huh? That evening, the whole settlement filled the main square with light, laughter, and music. A table overflowed with what little food could be spared.
Even the off-worlders who'd once threatened them now stood quietly at the edge, watching the
miracle of unity unfold. During the celebration, Cal pulled Nira and Shil into the crowd. He lifted Shil onto his shoulders, drawing a roar of applause as the boy giggled and waved. Nira found herself surrounded by people, miners, aliens, old, women with wrinkled smiles, who now called her neighbor, sister, friend. As dusk fell, Cal turned to Nira, voice soft. This family, it's not just us anymore. It's everyone who stood up, who chose each other over fear. That's how hope survives. Nira's heart swelled with gratitude. She looked at Cal and Shil at the new friends she'd made, and realized that home wasn't a place. It was a promise kept, a kindness returned, a future claimed together. For the first time, she believed in tomorrow as the stars blinked awake in the sky above Veyra. Nira whispered a silent thank you to the universe for food, for kindness, but most of all, for the family she'd never thought she'd find. She had offered herself for food, expecting chains. But the human gave her family, and in the end, that gift changed not just their lives, but the heart of an entire world. The end asterisk.